Hello and welcome to the Astrology Forecast. My name is Sage. Here is your eye into the sky, letting you know what the cosmic events are for the week, why they matter, and how you can use this information in your everyday life. I hope that you are all doing well this week. I know this forecast is coming a day late, as I've actually been sick since yesterday, so bear with me today as I am a little bit low energy. Pretty sure I'm recording this right now with a fever. I haven't checked it since this morning, but I have been down and out since yesterday. Not fun, but this forecast was so important that we had to make it happen. This is a very momentous week. We actually have an extremely historic cosmic event occurring towards the end of this week. So it was a non-negotiable that this forecast had to get done. Before I get into all of that, a quick few announcements, which I'm really excited to share. If you follow my Instagram, then you probably know what I'm about to say, as I was doing a lot of teasing about this on my stories, and then eventually, of course, on the new moon in Capricorn. We finally released this, something we've been working on now for about 3 months. And what basically this is I'm so excited to announce that I'm gonna be co-hosting a retreat in Utah this summer. It's gonna be a stargazers retreat. Which essentially is us going and viewing the stars in what's considered to be a dark sky zone. So the dates are July 31st through August 5th. And again, this is something that is a once in a lifetime opportunity because we are literally going to be camping under the stars. This is essentially going to be a 5-day retreat where I am actually going to be hosting a workshop every single day, essentially going through a one-on-one course on astrology. So number one, if you're interested in learning more about astrology, that will be offered. I will also be doing birth chart readings for those who attend. And of course, we are going to do a lot of stargazing. We actually have some dark sky rangers coming with their telescopes. We're going to do some glamping under the stars. And it's just going to be an amazing opportunity to witness our universe in its full glory. This is something we don't often get to see because of light pollution, but there are things in our United States and around our world that are called dark sky zones. If you're not sure what a dark sky zone is, or maybe you've heard about it but not sure what it is, basically this is a designated area of the world, of our either United States, or again, they have them in other countries as well, where the light pollution is so low that you can actually see all of the stars, just like how the ancients used to do it before we had all these lights, street lights, skyscrapers, all that stuff that essentially makes it harder for us to see the sky. So I'm really, really excited. A lot of fun activities are being planned. And it's just, again, gonna be an amazing opportunity to not only learn about the stars and the planets, but also see them firsthand. So if you are interested in understanding more about what this retreat has to offer, if you're interested in signing up for this retreat, again, this is in collaboration with Soulflower Yoga and Wellness. They are pros when it comes to retreats. I admit I am the total newbie here. They approached me a couple months ago, back in like October, actually right around the eclipse, which of course makes a lot of sense, as eclipses oftentimes bring in new opportunities. And they approached me with this opportunity, and of course I was so honored and excited, and just really looking forward to seeing what magic we're going to create this summer in Utah. So if this is something of interest to you, hit the link below and go ahead, fill out that registration form, and we will send you over more information. Second announcement, and then we're going to dive right into all the cosmic events for the week, is this is the final week of Capricorn season, which also means that 50% off solar return readings will only be valid between now and the end of the week. So if you or a loved one is a Capricorn and you're looking to get a better understanding about what this year has in store for you, solar return chart readings are an amazing resource to tap into to understand what the cosmic energy is affecting you this year, and just essentially to get like a sneak peek as to what you can expect. So again, that is 50% off for all Capricorns. This is the final week, so if that is something that you've been called to doing, again, link is below. Definitely go ahead and book that solar return chart reading if it's something you're interested in. All right, so let's dive into all things this week. The first major cosmic event of this week, and actually the same day we're having this event is the same day we're having the next event. So basically everything I'm going to be talking about today is Saturday, January 20th, where the sun is entering into Aquarius. So like I had just said, we are leaving Capricorn season and we're entering into Aquarius season. Now, I did a lot of talk on Capricorn season, honestly, this whole month, as we've had a lot of planets also venturing into Capricorn. So I think we have a pretty solid understanding. You know, Capricorn, again, represents these larger governing bodies, right? The solid structures that create our society. Capricorn is all about ambition, success. It's essentially like the CEO or the boss, or you could even look at it like the president. Capricorn likes to be at the top. Now we transition over to Aquarius. And also, of course, I'm always going to say this, look at where you've got Capricorn in your chart to hopefully be able to do some reflection on what's happened for you ever since end of December when the sun entered Capricorn. And also get a sneak peek as to what you can expect as the sun and a couple other planets are moving into Aquarius. Now, as the sun is entering Aquarius, again, we are moving to a different zodiacal sign, which is a different energetic archetype to understand. Aquarius is a fixed air sign. It is ruled by the planet Saturn in traditional astrology. You might have also heard the planet Uranus if you're following modern astrology. I'm a traditional astrologer, so I'm going to be saying things in terms of traditional astrology. So I go by Saturn. And it is represented by the water bearer. And of course, the symbol for Aquarius is just those great little two squiggly lines. I think I actually have them right behind me, yeah, right there. So Aquarius is, again, an air sign, but it's called the water bearer, which I know confuses a lot of people. So I just want to make that abundantly clear. This is an air sign. It's not a water sign. But we will talk about why water is such a big component here. But let's first understand the switch, right? That transformation between Capricorn to Aquarius, because this is important to understand where this zodiac sign fits into the overall scheme of the 12 zodiacal signs. Again, this is going to be my all about Aquarius discussion. So if you are an Aquarius, or maybe you have some Aquarius people in your life that you love and you want them to know more about themselves, their sign, or just simply to learn more about the sign in general, as it's a really cool one to really dissect, definitely go ahead and make sure you send them this link. So Aquarius is coming after Capricorn season because Capricorn is what builds the structure, right? Capricorn represents the vertical direction going up. Capricorn is the mountain goat climbing the mountain. Capricorn is the CEO climbing the corporate ladder, right? Capricorn wants to see upward mobility. And Capricorn, of course, is an earth sign, so it creates structure, it creates the foundation. And that foundation can be so solid that we can grow upon it. But then we get to Aquarius season, and when we enter Aquarius season, this is when we can take that a step further. Aquarius season is meant to innovate and progress what the Capricorn body created. So Capricorn creates the structure, and then Aquarius furthers that along. It finds ways to innovate it. It finds ways to make it more progressive. And this is really one of the fundamental qualities of Aquarius. Aquarius is an innovator, right? Aquarius also, again, in modern astrology, ruled by the planet Uranus, which is very significant. I'm actually going to talk about Uranus later on, so stay tuned for that. But Aquarius is, again, the innovator. Aquarius is the progressive, the rebel rouser, the one that wants to see things moved forward and moved ahead. Now, why is this? I'll get into all of that. But first, I want to address why Aquarius is ruled, or I should say symbolized by the water bearer. It's ruled by Saturn, but it's symbolized by the water bearer. And even though it's not a water sign, why is this the case? Well, understand that Aquarius does not rule over water, but Aquarius is actually the sign most connected to electricity. Now, if we understand the properties of water, and of course, I'm sure a lot of us know this because nobody's gonna sit in a bathtub and then, drop a microwave in there, right? Because what's gonna happen is, of course, you're gonna get hurt and potentially die. But the reason is because water holds electricity, right? So water is all about that medium that connects us all. Humanitarian energy, right? This is Aquarius. But also, water holds electricity, right? It holds that ether in a sense. And so Aquarius is not the water, it's actually the electricity that's in the water, right? It's the ether that's in the water. And if you think about it, in air holds water, right? I live in Florida, so there's a lot of humidity down here. So I'm the first one to tell you that the air definitely holds water. And even if you're living somewhere that's dry, like a desert, you know this to be a fact, right? And so this is why Aquarius is so forward thinking. You know, it connects to electricity. It connects to the ethers. In fact, years ago when I was first learning about astrology, I found out that Aquarius is the most intellectual sign of the zodiac. And of course, I don't mean that to say like no other sign is smart. That's not it at all. But I will say this, Aquarians have an ability to tap into the quote unquote downloads we can receive from the universe, from the ether, at a much quicker pace than the rest of us. And this is simply because Aquarius represents that more lofty perspective. It's literally high up in the sky. And so it's as close to the ethers as we can get it, right? If we assume that all the downloads that come down to us are existing as essentially above us, right? Because that's where we look to when we want to get answers. Then essentially Aquarius is the one on top that's able to receive them first. Again, this is the water bearer. And if you think about in nature, what is considered to be a water bearer, it's actually a cloud, right? That's literally what a cloud is. It bears water. So that's one reason why Aquarius is the water bearer. The second reason is if we look at the order of zodiacal signs, we know that Pisces follows Aquarius, and Pisces is a water sign. It's actually the last water sign that really connects all of us. It's that law of oneness. And so Aquarius, the water bearer of Aquarius, is actually pouring out the waters into the Piscean consciousness. And so a lot of depth when it comes to that. And then of course, the last thing about the water bearer, which I think is pretty interesting because it really changes up our perspective, is that this is a person that is pouring out the water, right, for the collective, because Aquarius is very collectively focused. And as we know, water is what's going to connect all of us through life. But also, we want to know what's at the bottom of that pitcher. If you think about Aquarius, I know you can't really see it, maybe you can see it a little bit in the camera, but we have a actual pitcher, and then the water is coming out of the pitcher. Again, this water connects back to the symbol for Aquarius, which is why we have these squiggly lines. Not only do they represent the waves or the water bearer, but they also represent electricity. If you think about like a heart rate monitor, things like that, that's where we get the symbol from. But again, going back to what I was saying, as we're pouring out the water, we want to look towards the bottom of the pitcher to see what's there, right? If I'm holding a pitcher of water, I can't see what's at the bottom. I have to pour out the water to see what's at the bottom. That's also what Aquarius is here for. Aquarius is that truth seeker. So let's discuss some of the key characteristics of Aquarius. Aquarius is an innovator. I already discussed that, right? Aquarius is also a bit quirky, a little bit unique and eccentric, which also does nicely flow in with the modern interpretation of it being ruled by Uranus. But at the same time, Saturn fits with this because Aquarius is all about being outside of the box. And of course, Saturn is the planet that creates the box. And while Aquarius while Capricorn ascends up in the box, Aquarius chooses to go out and step outside of it, both of which are a societal thing, right? Because as we know, stepping outside of the box means that you're not going with the status quo. You're not following by society's traditional rhetoric, essentially. And so this is where Aquarius likes to stand out from the crowd. There can be a loner energy to Aquarius, even though this is an air sign that loves friendship, loves communication, especially if that communication is either research oriented or intellectually based. Aquarius is not your air sign that wants to gossip. Aquarius is not the sign that wants to talk superficially. Aquarius wants to learn. Excuse me. Aquarius wants to learn. It wants to basically get to the root of things, and then of course it wants to take that and it wants to basically bring it ahead, right? Bring it forward. This is why Aquarius is a visionary. If you have Aquarius in your chart, or maybe think about the people in your life that have Aquarius, what do they do that's different from the rest of us? This is a common thing we see with Aquarius. And if it's not part of your big three, look at what planets you have. I only have one air sign in my whole chart, one placement in air, and it happens to be my Venus in Aquarius, which again, I'm not going to get into a whole interpretation of my chart, but I can see where my Aquarius tendencies show up in my relationships versus in other areas of my life, which of course aren't related to Aquarius because those planets are not in Aquarius. So it's really important to see where is Aquarius in your chart, because this is also where the sun is going to be shining and showing up for you over this next month. Now again, Aquarius rules over all things futuristic. This is futuristic technology. This is social rights, right? Humanitarian. Aquarius likes a good cause, right? Aquarius is that rebel. It's the one that wants to be a revolutionary. wants to change things from the inside out. One thing I love to say about Aquarius is that Aquarius loves to and strives to save the world, but it doesn't necessarily want to be a part of it. There's a detached quality with Aquarius that, again, is very, excuse me guys, I told you I'm sick. Hold on. Okay. That is very collectively focused, but not so much individually focused. And this is, again, going back to that duality that all air signs hold. More on that in another video, but this is where Aquarius is kind of like a dichotomy or a juxtaposition, right? Big words, but you get it, right? It's like there's contrast, because while Aquarius is so socially focused and wants to see the collective rise, it doesn't necessarily strive to be a member of the collective. Aquarius kind of stands off, marches to the beat of its own drum, and basically points at where we're going. Like, yeah, we're going that way, right? It's not necessarily going to be the one to sit in the middle of everything. That's not really Aquarian energy. Aquarius likes to kind of remove itself and, again, have that much more intellectual, logical perspective. Aquarius has a very lofty perspective. It sees things from a higher perch than the rest of us, and this can make Aquarians feel a little bit different, a little bit, ostracized. There's a eccentric quality. Some people call them the oddballs. And again, if you have an empowered Aquarian energy, if you've been able to really tap into this in a positive light, then you've been able to embrace your individuality, embrace your uniqueness, while at the same time maybe you're still learning about Aquarius and how this shows up for you. And you might kick yourself for maybe being a little bit more detached, or not as empathetic to emotional things, because Aquarius is not really, like, again, it's not a water sign, so it doesn't have that degree of like compassion and empathy, especially, again, for more individual problems. Aquarius will cry you a river over the suffering that's going on in the world, same as Pisces in a sense, but Pisces is doing that for everything, whether that be in the world or within yourself, whereas Aquarius is like, I'm good, but the collective's not. And that's what bothers the Aquarius. It's like, how can we make change for everybody and not just be so individually focused? Again, Aquarius is opposite of Leo. Leo is the sign of the individual. It's represented, or ruled, I should say, by the sun. And of course, we only got one sun. So Leo is very self-focused, while opposite of that is Aquarius, which is very societal, or I should say collectively focused. So knowing these two energies and how different they are, look at where they show up in your chart. I'm a Leo rising, and of course, like I said, I have Venus in Aquarius. So there is a little bit of that interesting contrast between how I show up and in the world, and then also how I show up in my relationships. So yeah, this is really the crux of Aquarius. It's the freedom-oriented sign. It wants to experience the world and make sure that the world is also taken care of. It also is a big sign of friendship. Interesting, because again, there is that like detached energy with Aquarius, but it's still an air sign. It's a fixed air sign, which gives it more solidity and structure and more consistency, which is great. This is the one that wants to research a paper and write 10 pages on it. Like, this is what Aquarians are great at. I think of my mom, who's an Aquarius moon, and she spends her days reading long papers. She's a professor, and this is something that she's been doing for a long time now, like going on 10 years, and she just sits and talks for like hours in a lecture and then reads papers that are like 10 pages long. Very fixed air energy, right? It's not quick, it's long, drawn out, but it's filled with intellectual, qualities. It's filled with that intelligence that the Aquarian loves. So check out where you have Aquarius in your chart, as the sun is entering Aquarius on January 20th, and it'll be there all the way until February 19th. Okay, so let's move on to the second cosmic event of this week, still happening on Saturday, January 20th. This is Pluto entering into Aquarius. Now, this is monumental. This is big. If you haven't been listening, now is the time to tune in, because this is something that doesn't happen much. Pluto takes 250 years roughly to move through all 12 signs of the zodiac, which means that we have not seen Pluto in Aquarius since the late 1700s, right? The 18th century. So this is really important to note, because Pluto is a very subtle yet powerful force within our solar system. So Pluto is represented by the god of the underworld, right? Pluto is all about things that lie beneath the surface. Pluto is one that we don't see in our face, right? This is, again, the planet that's way far out there. So of course, what it represents is not something that's right up close and personal. In fact, Pluto does represent darkness and things that are much more hidden, but yet they have to come to light. See, Pluto is the planet of transformation and regeneration. So in this case, Pluto is all about taking the darkness, taking those things that need to be addressed, bringing them to the light, looking at them for what they are, maybe having to completely destroy what they are in order to rebuild anew. And this can come with a degree of uncomfortability, some fear, even paranoia, as these are all things that Pluto rules over. But at the same time, there's a lot of strength and power that can result from Pluto's influence. One thing that I actually wrote down, I'm gonna read it to you guys because I got this from an amazing book. The astrologer's name is, I think it's Ronald Davison. The book is really old. It was like 50, 60 years old. But he says, the function of Pluto is to bring to the surface those hidden conditions that have lain dormant in the subconscious so that these can be transformed into a new source of power. I think this is extremely important to understand because this is the function of Pluto. Pluto is like the planet of purging, right? It has to address, identify, and then bring to the surface those things that might not be working so well and see how we can reorient them, readjust them, and basically transform them to make them even better and to, again, get rid of all those things that were not working, those things that incited fear and debilitation in a sense. And so this is an interesting planet because it's generational in effect. In fact, I'm actually going to go through it right now and read off the years that Pluto was basically in certain signs. Pluto takes anywhere from 12 to 30 years to basically move through one zodiac sign. So it takes a while. Sometimes this is like a 15-year span of time. Sometimes this is like a 20-year span of time. Again, sometimes it's 30. And so as we know, generations are based upon about 20 year or so increments. And it's interesting, as astrologers, we can actually look at where Pluto aligns and how it can essentially differentiate the different generations. So if you've always been curious to know where you fall, if you're a millennial or a Gen Z, for example, this is how you can definitively determine where you fall. So let's start with our Gen X babies. These are people born between 1971 and 1983. You are those people with Pluto in Libra, and again, you are considered Gen X. Now moving ahead, 1983 until 1995, this is people that have Pluto in Scorpio. You are considered millennials, okay? So very important, as I know a lot of us listening are millennials or consider ourselves to be. I, for one, always thought I was. I'm born in 1995, but actually I'm not, so we'll get into that. But again, 1983 to 1995, this is Pluto and Scorpio, you're millennial. Lastly, we've got, or not last, but second to last, 1995 to 2008. These are Gen Z. This is my Pluto in Sagittarius friends. I'm actually considered part of this, which is weird. I actually feel like I'm more of a millennial, so, you know, take it with a grain of salt, so to speak, but also understand that the degree and the sign placement for your Pluto, it is what it is. That really does determine what generation you fall into. And it's interesting to note how major themes in society were showing up when Pluto was in these certain signs. But I'll get to that in a second. Last but not least, if you, or maybe this is your children, are born between 2008 and 2023, you've got Pluto in Capricorn. Even if you're having a baby this week, if your baby comes before the 20th, they've got Pluto in Capricorn. And so this is the new generation. I actually don't know what they're called, so maybe comment below. I don't know. I've seen a couple different, like Gen Y, or different stuff like that, but I'm not 100%. So that's the new generation, so to speak. And again, it's very interesting to note when Pluto is in a certain sign, what happens. So I actually want to do a quick reflection before we talk about Pluto being in Aquarius. Quick reflection note on this. Look at where you've got Capricorn in your chart. I say this a lot, but this is where the ingress, right, the movement of Pluto entering into Aquarius, it's really necessary to look at how Pluto transformed your Capricorn house. If you are, let's say, a Capricorn rising, this was very personal to you. If you've got Capricorn placements in general, you'll feel this. But in general, every single person, all of us have Capricorn in one house in our chart. That area of our life was getting a major reconstruction since 2008. And it's interesting because if we look on a global level, what happened in 2008, right? All of us that were around during that time, we know this is when the financial crisis hit, right? We had that economic crash. And since that moment, right, since 2008, while Pluto was moving through Capricorn, we witnessed that transformation of the governing body, right? We witnessed the destruction and regeneration of our financial system, of our monetary system. We started Pluto in Capricorn in 2008 with a huge recession, which really, again, it's that function of Pluto to bring to the surface things that were hidden below, right? We needed to look at what wasn't working in our society. There was these quote unquote bubbles that were happening. And as time progressed, as Pluto moved through Capricorn, we witnessed a complete retransformation of our monetary system. In fact, by the end of Pluto being in Capricorn, we got cryptocurrency, we got digital exchange. This is something so on the forefront, and again, such an example of Pluto's power. As a society, we witness this. And it's interesting too, because the United States actually has Pluto in Capricorn in its birth chart. Yes, the United States has a birth chart. And so we actually experience what's called a Pluto return. Basically, Pluto returned back to that same sign in Capricorn, and we just passed that. So now we're moving into Pluto in Aquarius, which a lot of signification is there as well. So talking about Pluto in Aquarius, let's talk about some major themes for this energy. And just so you guys are aware, this is something that's going to be playing out over the next 20 years. And yes, you heard me right, 20 years. We have Pluto in Aquarius from January 20th, 2024, all the way until January 20th, 2044. Now it will go back into Capricorn at the end of this year for a quick little finale. So again, any major themes that showed up for you over the last 15 years since Pluto's been in Capricorn, expect maybe again a little last minute finale, a little cherry on top for whatever that experience has been. But now we're moving into Pluto in Aquarius. And this is very significant because again, if we consider everything I just shared in terms of Pluto being in Aquarius and what Aquarius represents, this is again the sign of the humanitarian. This is the sign of social justice, human rights. This is the sign that wants to see humanity ascend. And also this is the sign for the people. It represents any technologies, future technologies. And so what can we expect with Pluto entering into Aquarius? Again, look at where you've got Aquarius in your chart. On a personal note, this is where you're going to be seeing transformation for the next 20 years. Quick personal anecdote here, which I find fascinating, is as a lot of you guys know, of course, I just recently got engaged. Shane and I got engaged in October. And now that Pluto is entering Aquarius, I have Aquarius in my house of marriage. And this is the year that we begin wedding planning. So very interesting to note that Pluto is entering into my house of marriage, ushering in this degree of transformation when it comes to my quote unquote married life, which I will be, of course, transforming as we get married, and how this is going to be an energy that I'm going to be witnessing over the next 20 years. And this is true for all of us. Look at where you've got Aquarius in your chart. And I also should note that if you are a fixed sign, so that means if you are a Scorpio, if you're a Taurus, if you're Aquarius, I'm missing one, Leo, my rising, of course. If you're one of those four, or four, depending, if you count Aquarius or not in there, you're going to be experiencing some challenging energy with this, more so than, let's say, if you are an air sign. If you're a Gemini or a Libra, you're going to feel this energy a lot more subtly, and maybe even a little bit more positively. So let's talk about this, right? So Pluto in Aquarius, what is this likely to bring in for us? Some big themes, which is funny, we're already starting to see this, is Aquarius. I always think of Aquarius as like an alien, because Aquarius, again, is very futuristic. It's like the person that came from the future and was plopped down into this current time period, and they're like, yeah, but that's what's going on over there. So whatever's happening here, we are still going there, right? I hope that made sense. It has that futuristic visionary perspective. And also Aquarius represents things that are maybe a little bit foreign to us. So in a sense, alien life, extraterrestrial life is typically going to show up for us during this time. And also just in general space exploration, as again, Aquarius is that fixed air sign, and of course outer space is fixed air, right? It's just air that's sitting there, not moving necessarily, but just in that fixed space. And so we've already seen this. I know a lot of you guys, and myself included, we've seen that whole Miami thing. I don't know how true it is, but it's out there, right? We're starting to see even like the government is starting to talk about alien life and how this is coming out, and we're seeing it's coming to light, right? So this is one example. Space exploration, huge. I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 20 years we finally make our way to Mars. There's a lot that can happen as Pluto enters Aquarius when it comes to expanding our perspective, right? This is what Aquarius is known for, expanding our perspective. And in this situation, it's expanding it in a global sense, in a universal sense, where we're seeing how we fit into the larger solar system and the cosmic fabric, and we realize maybe we're not alone. And so this is something to really look at and see how it kind of transpires over the next 20 years. So that's one major thing with Pluto being in Aquarius. And it's interesting because space exploration, if we look back in history, this has been a hallmark of Pluto being in Aquarius. Like I'd mentioned, Pluto was last in Aquarius in the late 1700s. This is actually when scientists discovered Uranus. Actually, it was a man named William Herschel who discovered the planet Uranus. It was the first planet that was discovered with a telescope. And of course, a telescope is a futuristic technology. So when Pluto entered Aquarius, this became something that came up, and all of a sudden it was being utilized. And then as a result, we expanded our perspective on our solar system. We found out that Saturn is not the last planet, it's just the last visible planet. And of course, since then we've discovered both Neptune and Pluto. Maybe there's more out there, right? And this is something that could show up for us over the next 20 years. We might discover new planets, and we might reframe our solar system and reorient how we know things when it comes to that. So that's something really interesting to look at. Also AI, right? And a lot of astrologers are talking about this. I actually did a whole podcast on this a year ago when I was on my friend's podcast, and we talked about this, and I've talked about it since then, even just with friends. Pluto in Aquarius is for sure going to usher in the era of AI, right? This is when we will begin to fully see AI taking root. We did have Pluto enter Aquarius for a short span of time last year between March 23rd and June 11th. And I'm pretty sure there was some technological advancements that happened there around the metaverse. And so expect this to essentially just continue on, where we're going to start to see virtual realities and augmented realities. And AI, which as a lot of us are concerned about taking over on an intellectual level and becoming even smarter than us, right? Again, Aquarius is that futuristic technology sign, but it also is all about, communication. This is very AI. Social media is going to take even more importance, as we've already seen this happening. A lot of major news stories, a lot of shocking disclosures have come out through social media. Pluto, again, is going to bring up the things that lurk beneath the surface, right? That are permeating kind of that subtle energy that we don't see but we feel, right? It's going to bring that to the surface, and it's going to address it. Now, sometimes this can bring a degree of fear and paranoia, so don't be surprised if there's a lot of concern over the safety and the ramifications of incorporating AI into our global world. There's going to be some fear, right? That's what Pluto's going to show us, and it could get worse before it gets better. But at the same time, I guarantee that by 2044, we're going to see a completely transformed version of technology, of AI, of artificial everything. This can even go back to like our food. I see that they're starting to want to put plastic in our food, and like it's crazy the amount of progress that our society is making. Question is, and this is what Pluto will ask us to examine, is this safe? Is this helpful? Is this something we want? Or is this a little bit more scary and something we have to be aware of and maybe a little bit wary of? So these are all things to consider. Also, social rights, human rights. I could see LGBTQ becoming a major thing as we move through this 20-year span of time. Black Lives Matter became a thing just recently. We're going to see that probably expand even more. A lot of looking at how society can be represented better. And also, Aquarius is the sign of the people, right? This is like for the people. In fact, a lot of revolutions, the American Revolution, as well as the French Revolution, all happened when Pluto was in Aquarius. So if you think about Aquarius as the rebel rouser, right? It's the reformer. And we have revolutions in history happening during the time when Pluto was transiting through Aquarius. It's not unlikely to suggest that this could happen to our either country, United States, or even somewhere else in the world. This is likely to happen where we see revolution, we see the uprising of the collective, basically. And it's going to essentially take down maybe that governing structure, that Capricorn structure that came up during the time when Pluto was in Capricorn. Now that Pluto enters Aquarius, we're going to destroy that. We're going to get rid of it because we want to make space for something transformed and renewed. So really important energy to take note of as Pluto is entering into Aquarius, and it will stay there for the next 20 years. I think that's the majority of it, you guys. Again, I know there's going to be a lot that transpires over these next 20 years. So expect a lot of regeneration, transformation. Again, this can come with a degree of fear and paranoia, but at the same time, this is the sign of progress. So expect a lot of progress in all of these areas that I just described. And of course, last but not least, please look at where you've got Aquarius in your birth chart, as this is going to be important to understand where this energy is showing up for you. I don't expect it to be showing up right away, as again, Pluto is a long-term energy, so it doesn't really show up right away. It might take some time. But if we do look back, 20 years from now, I would be pretty much certain that we will be able to see what transpired and what transformed for us during that time. So I hope this information was of value to you. Again, very momentous week as we have two planets, right? Both the sun, which is a luminary, and Pluto entering into Aquarius. The sun will be there a month, Pluto will be there 20 years. Aquarius energy is coming in hot. So I hope this information was of help for you. Thank you all so much for the support. Again, if you are interested in booking a Capricorn solar return reading, only 1 week left for that, hit the link below. And if you're interested in the Utah retreat as well, link is below. You can go ahead and fill out that registration form. So thank you all so much for your love and support. If you got value from this video, definitely go ahead, hit the like button. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. So I send you guys so much love. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you all again next week.